I'm living my best life. Yeah, yeah. I'm living my best life. Made a couple M's, you know. I said, I'm living my best life. I said, I'm living
And
my best
hello,
life.
friends, to Kiki's Keys to Unlocking Your Best Life, where we are sharing stories of people who have been through their worst but are now living their best. And I come today with a really special guest, folks. I'm excited to introduce her to you. Debra Disharoon. She originally from Georgia, but transplant here to Tucson like myself. I got to meet her through networking and learn quite early on that she had quite a special heart, as we each use the same phrase to feed a bird with two seeds as opposed to the alternative we knew as an instant connection. And what I've learned about Debra is she has an amazing gift with astrology. And myself, I have very little to no experience or a lot of knowledge about astrology other than maybe my sign as a Taurus, but it's uncharted, pun totally intended, territory for myself. And so I am so excited to bring Debra here today to introduce you to all of you, my listeners, and give you a chance to learn along with me. So welcome, Debra.
Hi, thank you for having me, Kiki.
I'm so glad to have you here. It is quite a remarkable gift that you have, using the stars to not predict the future or to be a deity or God yourself, but to use it as a tool. Tell us more about what astrology is and what astrology isn't.
Well, I would think that it depends on which astrologer you ask. For me, it's more of using a tool to get a heads up on opportunities. So, in other words, I don't read a chart for someone and then tell them, this is going to happen to you. I tell them, you have these opportunities potentially, and that's exactly what it is. It's just a set of potentials. Really, to me, what astrology is the planetary alignments they're exactly what an astronomer sees. We don't use a different solar system at all. It's the very same planetary bodies, and the sun and the moon, they're luminaries. So for me, what's going on in the sky is just a mirror of what happens down here.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, because it's like looking into something that's already there. You're not looking at something that doesn't exist. It's a reflection back at us.
Yes.
Well, that's such a cool metaphor. I love those visuals. I can see that in my mind. It makes sense to me that way. How did you come to get introduced to astrology, and what was your first reaction to it?
Well, I tell you, it was a long road, really, really long road to get here. I was skeptical for a long time. I'm just going to be very blunt here. I thought that it was for idiots and gullible people, or people who really were, under a bad influence that would follow this, because I was raised in the Baptist faith, and my parents and our church really frowned on astrology or other forms of divination, even though in our church and in our Baptist faith, we believed in beings that you can't see, like God and angels. And so they had a belief in the unseen, but our church really taught us that, astrology is something that Christians shouldn't do. But the funny thing to me is my my grandparents had a Farm Bureau insurance calendar.
Okay.
And so the calendar had little astrological symbols, and it would have like when the sun went into Taurus or when the sun went into Pisces. And you could see the symbol on the calendar, and there were lunar phases featured on that calendar. So I'm not sure if my papa ever really used That,
But that's a great point. A lot of farmers know the importance of the lunar phases with their crops and with their craft, and even Benjamin Franklin's the Poor Richard's Almanac had astrology as well as horoscopes, as well as when you should plant and when you shouldn't because of the moon or the star alignment. So you're absolutely right. There's a lot of historical references back to astrology and to lunar and solar phases.
yes, and the Farmer's Almanac. And forgive me, I can't remember what the old text was called in the Middle Ages, but the Farmer's Almanac is kind of like, the grandson or granddaughter of that ancient text or that from the Middle Ages because, and it is true, there have been scientific experiments done that show that the phase of the moon does affect tides. So turgor pressure that is conducted through plants. Also, there can be more water drawn up into a plant during a full moon than during a new moon.
Oh, that is fascinating.
So, yes.
So how were your your skepticisms, forgive me, I'm using the wrong word there, were they based on that, like challenging your own faith, challenging how you see the world, or was it based in somewhere else?
Well, honestly, I felt like that I was sort of betraying my family a little bit to follow that because my family said it was wrong and our church said it was wrong. But there was always a part of me that wanted, I couldn't help it. It just kind of stuck. And it's almost like it's something that nagged me along the way through the years. And I had on and off curiosities. But what really made me skeptical was reading the generalized, broad horoscopes, the free horoscopes that were in media like the newspapers and
or the old Time magazines that we would read. Yeah,
the magazines.
Now it's all on our phones, but yeah, they've been part of those medias for a long time. I think even our local newspapers would have horoscopes on there.
They do, but I read what they said about Libras, and I even read other little astrology books, and it said, oh, a Libra is this and that and the other, and it's all about, the sign about harmony and more focus on your partner than yourself. Some of that is true for me, but I found that what it said really didn't totally fit. And so as a result, it was a little detrimental, actually, because I thought that something was wrong with me. I even thought that maybe my birth certificate was wrong and my parents just didn't tell me. So I just said, well, this isn't even right. This doesn't even describe me. So I just kind of shut the door on it for a while. Then I came back to it later on, picked at it a little bit in my teens. But really, ultimately for me, I've always been drawn to mystery and the things that you can't see. I'm all about discovery. And that's always been something that is core to my personality, self-exploration. My brother...
Let's talk about that for a second, because I'm right on there with you. I think our greatest growth comes from when we can look within and review our own hearts, review our actions, make amends or atones when necessary, and continue to live a life that one is proud of. And how do you tap into astrology to help? How does astrology help you be your best version of Debra?
Well, to get to that, I had to learn how it actually works. I went through a series of different self-help methods, anywhere from books, friends' advice. I tried to revisit the spirituality that my parents endorsed, and I just found that it really did not help me find my answers. And not to say that they were wrong and that it's wrong or whatever, not to say that at all, but I needed to dig deeper. And, so what happened was when I got into my 20s, I got a book and it was called The Only Astrology Book You'll Ever Need. And it was written by Joanna Martine Woolfolk. And without the proper guidance, I was kind of lost with it. I tried to do horoscopes for friends and family, and so I just wasn't successful. And once again, I just kind of shut the door. I gave the book away and just put the whole concept on the shelf for a while. Well, 2014 comes along, and I got my first reading.
From another practitioner?
From a professional astrologer.
How did you meet them, or how did that come out to be?
He was actually at a friend's brunch, and I met him there, and I took one of his business cards. And so I called him up after kind of mulling it over for a few months. And then I thought, you know what? I got to do this. So
you did a personalized chart with this other astrologer for yourself?
I did. I said, okay, I give up on trying to figure this out myself. It's too complex and confusing. So I went to him. He did the reading and just totally blew me away.
Now, what's the difference between a personalized chart reading and looking at one's horoscope for how's my day look like as a Taurus? What's the difference between the two?
The difference is a professional can tie the whole thing together. So it's like, you're not just saying, okay, Kiki is a Taurus, so here's your sun sign, and then
we all know I'm stubborn, right?
but persistent. I think
yes.
Persistent and very, steady does it.
So when you do my personalized chart, which I do want you to do for me, what am I going to see different in that in comparison?
Well, it will be how your sun expresses itself in relation to other energies, and so I will look at the entire chart. And I will forget what I like to do is just forget what planets are there right off the bat and just see that there are dots, if you will. And wherever they are placed, that gives me a general impression of the energy of that individual. And then I will say, okay, which planet is this? And so then I will, using methods that have been tried and true for thousands of years, plus what my teacher taught me, I will take that and synthesize the whole thing. And it's like being a systems analyst, really, because you're taking massive amounts of information and synthesizing that and bringing it all together, and then figuring out what questions to ask the client from that.
I am totally fascinated with this. We're going to go into break, give some love to our sponsors because we wouldn't be here without them. So thank you to them. And after the break, when we come back, Debra's going to share a little bit more about what she learned from her own chart and how she uses astrology to help others find their best lives through the stars right after this. And welcome back, friends, to Kiki's Keys to Unlocking Your Best Life, a weekly radio show where we share stories of people who've been through their worst and are now living their best. We currently air every Saturday at 4 p.m. just on KVOI The Voice in Tucson, Arizona. But I am looking for radio stations out there as well. So if you are listening, whether it be through my YouTube at Kiki's Keys Life, or through your favorite podcast media, including Apple Podcasts, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all those wonderful things, but also recommend me to your local radio station that may be looking for a great show, sharing stories of people who've been through their worst, now living their best to give hope and inspiration to others. And one of those people, one of my keys to success here is my dear friend Debra Disharoon, who is a very talented astrologer, and she's here sharing more about her experience with astrology. And you're going to tell us a little bit more about what you learned, Debra, when you had your mentor and instructor in astrology do a personalized chart for you. What was that experience like as a recipient?
I kind of made more sense to myself
okay.
after that. And so It's like I had a deeper understanding of why I am the way I am, I think, to put it very simply. And it's just some things made more sense, and the astrologer also covered, my family, because there are symbols that show our family in a
Okay.
chart as
Yeah.
well. And so he was able to make me understand them better too. And I found that the greatest benefit that I had from really learning how astrology works and having the professional chart done was that I was willing to forgive people that I had been angry with, because what this has done is kind of opened my mind and helped me to understand why other people are the way they are as well. And I felt that it made me more willing to forgive my parents for anything that I ever got angry with them about. Like, why couldn't you have given me the perfect childhood? It's like, well, what parent can?
Right.
So it's a great maturity. It's a growing process, but it was just the it opened up a lot of understanding for me, though, and especially about myself.
And I love how you touched about forgiveness of others and ourselves. I've heard the phrase, when we hold on to resentment, it's like taking a poison and expecting the other person to be harmed. It just hurts ourselves. So using those charts gave you a better understanding of those that were in your life, in your relationships, so that you could find those moments of forgiveness, find those moments of grace. But it sounds like you also had to forgive yourself and be graceful with yourself for who you, Debra, are.
Yes, it most certainly helped me to love and accept myself instead of saying, well, I don't fit what this says about a Libra. I'm a Libra. My birthday's coming up October 3rd.
Okay.
And
happy early birthday.
thank you. And so it instead of feeling like that I was defective, which that sent me into a lot of depression, a lot of anger, and a lot of frustration, because the world didn't make sense. Life didn't make sense. And I didn't make sense to myself. I mean, even though I had done journaling and I knew how to look deeper, but nothing really answered my questions.
The why.
Yeah, nothing told me the why like astrology has. It's just amazing how it opens your world up for you.
And now you are doing it professionally yourself. You've spent 10 years since you had your chart done in 2014. How has that been going? Tell me about some of the people you've had the joy of, you don't have to name them, but some stories of who you've had to work with and who you were able to help with through giving them their own astrological charts.
I think that the greatest benefit that I have had, and I will say that I think each astrologer has their job. Like, another astrologer might be more particularly called to work with people on their relationships. There are business astrologers out there. There's many branches of astrology, actually. But I'm finding, as I grow in this discipline, and I am going to call it a discipline because it is a faith, but it is a discipline. And I find that my gift is with medical astrology. So I've been able to talk. I've had a lot of clients who say, I've been sick. I've gone to doctor after doctor. We can't figure out what's going on with me. And I can see a complete nutritional panel in an astrology chart. And so now I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on TV.
Very good point.
Okay.
Yep. You got to be careful when you're saying you're helping somebody when it comes to their health. But I know a lot of people are out there who feel just completely defeated. They don't know why. They don't feel the energy they should, or that they have the pain that they should. And modern medicine has let them down. Tell me how that person can come to you and how you can be of help for them.
What I do is I take their chart and I have a medical questionnaire that I use, and it was actually developed by one of my teachers, Eileen Nauman. She's been an astrologer for many, many years, and she's also into homeopathy. But I took her cue and I use her questionnaire, which I send to the client. And they fill it out to the best of their knowledge. I ask them if they have any of their blood panel or whatever, and I talk to them about what tests they've had. I will look at their chart and I will see the probabilities of what could be going on with them. That, for example, I'm a Libra, and because my sun sign is in Libra, I have to take extra special care of the lumbar part of my spine and my kidneys.
That's fascinating that you can know that through the stars.
And so this comes back from the medieval days, even from some of the Arabic astrology as well. They actually safeguarded a lot of the medical knowledge from the medieval astrologers. And so what I do is I point them into a direction. I try to have people to refer them to who are licensed professionals. And so what I'll do is I will tell them, it looks like you could be having an issue with your vitamin B12 levels, and this is why you've been diagnosed as bipolar when actually you need B12, and so I will try to send them to the appropriate licensed professional. So I will be like a reference for them.
So you might not be the path itself, but you're the compass to that path.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, wow. That's such a great vision. We are almost out of time already. This has been a wonderful interview. I really appreciate you being here, Debra. Before we leave, what does living your best life mean to you?
Well, living my best life is getting to be an astrologer. I get so happy and warm and tingly feeling knowing that I'm finally doing what I came here to do.
And how can people reach you if they want to learn more or have a chart done for themselves?
They can email me at ddastrology22@gmail.com, or they can visit my website, www.ddastrology.biz. But the best way is to reach me by email. There's also an email address on the website.
So go to the website, folks. We're out of time, but thank you, Debra, for being here today. And of course, if you are listening on YouTube or on your favorite podcast, like, share, subscribe. This is Kiki Rogers, and continue to be the best you that you can be, because nobody else can do it better than you.